All right. All right. It was my birthday this month. You guys, I'm sure you're all both aware of that. Will,
No.
Happy birthday.
thank you. It was as we recorded this 10 days ago. Will you get out the text message that I think will put me on blast for how drunk I was the evening we celebrated?
Um,
Do you remember the text I'm talking about?
I'm not sure I do.
Just go. Can you scroll back to your text thread with me to January 21st?
Okay, all right.
And you sent a text to me that said like I'm not quite sure I get what you're saying, and read what coaxed such a response.
Um,
um
so was it the I've had 6 cocktails text?
I'm sorry, it is that one.
Okay, yeah, I've had 6 cocktails and oh god. I've had 6 cocktails, be inside my sister, and cow keepers just let me float.
Hmm.
And then it says and Mr. Electric kill Troy.
Yeah.
You
So
have a way
you
with
were
words.
you were a little out there, weren't you, Sherm?
Yeah, I had I was kind of compensating because Thursday I had to work late. I had to do like I had to chaperone an event for my students where I did not have 6 cocktails. Rest assured, I was in an adult area on a Saturday that day. And my uncle texts me. He's like, my Italian Florida uncle that I think I've told stories about before on here, and he was like, "Hey Tom, happy birthday! What's on the menu tonight?" And I'm like, I have to chaperone a school event. I think we'll have something more special this weekend. And my uncle was like, "Nah, it's required. Send me a picture of what you have." So I get to the skating rink for children that I was chaperoning at, and I noticed they had a $4 meal deal for a beverage and 2 slices of pizza, and it's the most pathetic, like, cardboard pizza you could ever fathom. And I was like, "You wanted to see what was on the menu?" And I took that picture and sent it to my very Italian Uncle Lenny. And I did not hear his voice, but defeat was apparent in his voice as he just texted me back, "We'll get you a cheesesteak when you visit."
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine like $4 for 2 pieces of pizza. That's like something's got to be going on.
Yeah, it is the process of just like the big slab of what looks like cardboard going right in the oven. When we went there, I think someone was in training because some guy was burning a lot of pizzas.
Oh no.
There's like smoke, I'm like, we gotta get the students out of here. Look at all that smoke. And one of my coworkers is just like, nah, it's just burning the pizza.
Dude,
God,
we're very okay as a country with feeding our children like actual non-edible
Cardboard.
things, cardboard, rubber, plastic.
Microplastics too.
It is
Yeah.
It is truly a nightmare. Like, I was talking to my folks about how, like, people in Italy have, like, cheese and bread for, like, every meal, basically, and pasta, but their ingredients are so pure that they don't work. Like, we don't have many options besides, like, garbage, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much.
Imagine living in
Yummy.
a place where, like, you don't have to lobby to not be fed poison.
Imagine living in a place.
Imagine living.
Rev up those fryers and fill those champagne glasses to the tippy top. It's West Coast Toast and Roast with Tommy, Will, and Dav. Welcome back, West Coast Toast and Roast. I have eaten 15. I have eaten 15 like 6-can beer containers of plastic today. That's Tommy.
And my blood flows with the energy of microplastics, and I'm Will.
My blood flows with a lack of insulin because I have diabetes. But also as an American, I have many microplastics flowing from head to toe and no money in my bank account on account of the diabetes thing. And I'm Dav.
We made a great bit yesterday of we were riffing yesterday about Mr. Beast making a giant pool of insulin. And we kind of predicted the future because fucking as we record this today, he cured people's blindness.
Oh Jesus!
Yeah.
Hell planet we live on.
And the bit specifically was that Mr. Beast is the type of guy to like buy all of the insulin in the country and fill up an Olympic swimming pool with it to raise awareness for diabetes, and in the process, kill many diabetics across the country.
Do you think I picture the pool is like carved in the shape of like an insulin container or bottle? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, just to go a little extra for it, get the spectacle of it for people.
Yeah, like he went out of his way to make a separate. It's not he emptied his swimming pool. He made a separate domicile. Man,
Right.
yeah. If I don't take insulin, is it like thin or thick? Like, what's this pool looking like?
It looks pretty much like water.
So, okay, clear liquid. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
So that means he could mistake the insulin pool with his own and like dive in on accident.
I guess. I mean, I don't know if it would actually do anything. I mean, it has a very distinctive smell, so he would smell like it would smell like hospital.
Fair enough. All right. Well, speaking of hospitals,
Oh, are you gonna?
I don't know. Speaking of, oh, you thought I was gonna talk about my knee?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was walking to work earlier this week, and there was a big ass slick of ice, and over that walk, I walk to work almost every day, unless something like this happens. Over the course of that walk, I slipped and fell 3 times. I don't know if I ever told that to you guys. And the third one completely fucked me. My Apple Watch, I was yelling so loud that my Apple Watch thought I needed emergency care, which maybe I arguably did. One of my coworkers peeled me off the sidewalk. And we might cut this. I don't know if this is a bad joke. We can litigate that. Ever since I told you guys about the Rankin Bass films, Will has been fascinated with the phrasing of the stingiest man in town, and which in reference to Ebenezer Scrooge, and Will's been calling me that. That's my new nickname. So when I got my crutches after going to urgent care for a really bad fall and a sprained knee, I took a selfie with the crutches, and I texted you guys from the stingiest man in town to Tiny Tim in one fell swoop.
So that's a good story, but I would like to put an asterisk that the stingiest man in town isn't a nickname; it's a title that you own.
Can I joke about Tiny Tim? Is that like a bad thing, or should I cut that?
Way too. It's been like 200 years. You got to let it sit another 100.
I just don't know if it's offensive to anyone who's full time on crutches. I don't know.
I don't think it is.
Okay. Oh my god, do you remember we got blazed and we were watching Paddington 2? And I was like, Will, we were trying to litigate, is Paddington a child or is he like a little guy? Is he like a little
Oh, Jesus.
And I was like, well, I'm going to ask Twitter. And I made a poll and then I got like really scared, like, you think little guy? Do you think people would like interpret that as little person? And we're both like post weed brain, and you're just like, Tommy, I don't think you could post that. I miss our little Paddington smokeouts. We get a big old 6-pack of donuts and some iced coffees and just gorge ourselves and enjoyed Paddington. Fun times.
Yeah, I think he's a little guy though.
You think he's a little guy?
Yeah, I think he's a little guy.
Well, child or little guy for Paddington?
They call him a cub.
True.
It's the same way like an older person would call like a 20-year-old kid or something, right?
Here's the thing. Here, where I'm at is that he does not go to school and he does go to prison. That's
true, yeah. They try him as an adult.
There's no fucking fictional character funnier than Knuckles McGinty, I don't think. It's marmalade time! Alright, well, I'm glad we're getting this all out of our... It feels like a long time since we've recorded, even though it was the same 1-month wait since the Toasties.
But January always feels, like, very long.
Yeah, January's the forever month, but also the last one we didn't really like talk about new things so much as brought like our year summary things.
Yeah, there's some excess to sweat out there. Maybe this will be a long boy. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. We'll go through it, as we do. We'll see what comes up. Maybe we'll want to do another roundup towards the end. We'll figure it out. Will, do you want to start us off?
Yes. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to start off is it's been a good month for media for me. And I'm going to start off by toasting the movie Redline, which we watched last night.
Yeah.
Redline is a movie about NASCAR in the future, pretty much, except, like, these people who drive the cars are freaks of nature, and they put, like, guns on the cars. And despite all of that, it's still, like, a really good kind of emotional piece of media. It follows this dude named Sweet JP, and he's been caught in, like, what do they call it? When you, like, rig the race so the bets get placed?
Gambling? Is that gambling?
Yeah,
bets?
well, no, like...
We fixed the race.
Yeah, fixing the race.
Yeah.
But he gets into, like, the race of all races, which is Redline. And Redline takes place on RoboWorld, and the RoboWorld people don't like that Redline's going there, so they try to kill all the racers, and then a group of disgruntled workers lets out Funky Boy, who is a bioweapon that also kills some of the racers. It's one of the most insane fucking movies I've ever seen, and it is great from beginning to end.
I like how you jump to Funky Boy, though, because that's not even, like, really a major plot point. It's just kind of something that happens out of nowhere.
An Akira-esque monster is, like, maybe a footnote of this movie.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you can't mention this movie without mentioning that one of the, like, scariest pieces of it is a creature named Funky Boy.
Yeah, they let out Funky Boy.
A character says something to the effect of, "We can't let Funky Boy destroy RoboWorld," and we couldn't stop repeating that for the rest of the runtime.
Yeah. But at the same time, like, a movie with that quote, and you hear it in the context of the movie, and you're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. It's I think I said one of my favorite reviews on all of Letterboxd is one of my favorite critics reviewing Tron and saying, perfect film, star reduced for being absolute gibberish, and that's how I feel about this film.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just so much fun. Like, every moment in the race is impossible to look away from.
Insane fucking cast of characters.
Oh yeah, like there's
like a duo where they're like Batman and Robin, but they're obsessed with like brutalizing people.
Yeah, and then there's like the two like princess ladies who are like also
my favorite.
What are they, like magazine models?
It's like they come from a planet. There's this bizarre thing where the people introducing them are like, they're from a planet where their princess uses magic, and you're like, I'm sure that'll be relevant later. No, I don't think it ever is.
Well, no, she uses magic to like control the things that like take on the RoboWorld Empire.
Right, yeah. Which it's about roughly as relevant as Funky Boy is.
Yeah.
Who's the racer? Is the guy who's like his theme song is just saying his name over and over again? Is that Machine Head or something?
Yeah, Machine Head.
It's like Machine Head Tetsujin or something.
Yeah, Machine Head Tetsujin.
And he comes in every time he comes into the scene. He just goes Machine Head, Machine.
Oh my god. Well, there's like 15 different references to different like mecha anime, because I think like they have a weapon called the Voltons, and Tetsujin is like what we in America know as Big O is Tetsujin, so they were on some like Gundam bullshit when they wrote this. Oh man, there's a phenomenal, like, there's a bit where I think two characters are having an intimate conversation, and Sweet JP and was it Boy Hunter Cherry?
Cherry Boy Hunter.
Cherry Boy Hunter. And fucking this guy with like this big Tony Oliver's voice just like bursts fucking in. He's like, you guys are Redline racers, huh? Like interrupting the fan service.
I think he just like sits down at their table and like starts eating their food.
That's like an alpha move. That's what I would do.
Which, speaking of Cherry Boy Hunter, there's another very self-aware moment in this movie that fucking got me, where because she like won the first race, so she was getting a ton of publicity, and there was like some news coverage of it, and they were like doing it very there was a lot of focus on like her ass and stuff because she's like an attractive woman, and she's like watching it in her house, and she's like, wow, nice shot of my ass, guys. And then she sits down and it jump cuts to her in the frame just topless.
Read the nips for that shot.
It's just it I don't know, it goes to show how fucking self-aware this movie is.
Yeah, which, I mean, humor like that is really good.
Yeah.
God, and Cherry Boy Hunter is also named Prab Sonashi, which is like one of the funniest names I've ever heard.
Sonashi?
Prab Sonashi.
It's very close to something else that I don't even want to like litigate right now.
Dang, I'm not even sure what it would be.
Sounds a little like rap
either.
Sonashi.
Tommy.
I don't know about that. Jesus.
Jesus, Tommy, you are a freak. Anyways, Redline, really good movie. Beautiful to look at. I love, I'm coming to realize that I love movies where the fight scenes or like the action scenes are just like have an explosion of color in them, and that kind of happens in this. Like every time JP uses his like super move basically to make his car go faster, it like stretches out and it gets super colorful, and I love shit like that.
Yeah, nitro scenes are really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's sorry, you go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say I don't want to say too much about it because I think people at home should definitely see this for themselves.
Is there like trigger DNA in this? Because that's the vibe I got.
No, it was done by Madhouse, I think.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Because like Trigger, I'm gradually finding that it's like a 10 episodes Trigger series. I'm almost like, I just can't take this. But like Trigger movies, I tend to like better. And I get a similar vibe where if this was like a 10 episode thing, I'd be a little like, oh, all right, buddy. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But for a solid 90 minutes, I'm like, all right, I'm into it.
Yeah, I think that's about everything I have to say about the movie, unless you guys wanted to add anything else.
I feel like we barely discussed the fact that it's about racing.
Well,
Yeah, no, it's the race scenes are so fucking good.
Wonderful.
I guess I'll pass it off to Dav now.
Cool. Well, on the topic of movie night picks, I got one for y'all. This is one that we were kind of putting off for a while, but eventually we kind of came around to it.
Don't you?
I would like to talk about Norbit,
Wow.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
starring Eddie Murphy.
I like to list the topics we cover, and you're making me put Redline, Norbit in the description.
You gotta put Norbit in the thumbnail.
Oh.
You do gotta put Norbit in the thumbnail now.
God damn it.
Because we had kind of made it an in-joke about we're eventually gonna watch Norbit, and at some point we decided we were gonna watch it, and then we just didn't. And then finally we came around and we watched it, and it's one of the worst movies I have ever seen in my life.
I can't believe
It's
we're
not
having this
even-
conversation.
We are talking about Norbit today, Tommy, whether you like it or not, because I think it's important in the sense that Eddie Murphy plays, I think, 3 different characters in this film. And for the 2 that aren't Norbit, there is such an excessive amount of makeup and offensive dialogue attached to them. That it's like it's kind of akin to doing drugs, just kind of watching them, even if you're sober. And I think it's kind of impressive that they achieve that. That you're in this like dreamlike state watching these two horrible, horrible characters just exist.
So this is a toast, right?
No. No, it is not a toast at all. This is definitely a roast. I want to make that very clear. This movie is awful. And not in like the Idiocracy or Freddy Got Fingered sort of way where it's like, yeah, this is kind of fun. I hope I never watch this movie again.
I don't think you have much to worry about, because we had to go out... Norbit's not streaming anywhere. We had to, like, go out of our way to find it.
I think, like the U.S. government is trying to hide it.
Well, have you seen, there was one review on Letterboxd that says, like, the U.S. government uses this instead of waterboarding?
Yeah, and that makes sense to me. It really, I mean, what were your guys' takes on this?
You know what? I'm going to tell you my take by saying a quote from the movie. Let me show you how a bitch go down the slide.
I guess, like, my initial reaction... Man, where to begin? Mia Goth, in the duology of X and Pearl, plays both the protagonist and antagonist of the same film, and she brings forward a mirror, doing so resembling in mannerisms and physical appearance, to draw a disturbing parallel between a slasher and their victim, and I believe her inspiration was Eddie Murphy doing the same in Norbit.
I think you're right about that.
Because Eddie Murphy is both the titular character Norbit and the antagonist of the film Rasputia, in which he gets on a large fat suit and plays a comical caricature of a, who can only be described as a monstrous woman he is married to. The plot being that Eddie Murphy just like walked into the studio and was like, we're gonna make a movie about I hate my wife, I guess. I don't know if this is autobiographical. I don't know much about Eddie Murphy, his personal life. He thought it'd be really funny if he was just like, look at how huge my wife is. And it's me.
That really is the entire joke for the whole movie, isn't it?
Pretty much.
And what I like too is that they add, like, they're like, Eddie Murphy wants to leave Norbit. Sorry, I shouldn't say Eddie Murphy wants to leave Rasputia, because that questions object permanence, because he is both.
He is Rasputia.
Yeah.
God fucking damn it. Fuck, where was I? So, he's like, it's Norbit wants to leave Rasputia to be with his childhood sweetheart. And they want to make sure it's not too mean-spirited. They want to make sure Norbit is still likable and doesn't want to leave Rasputia just because she's, like, fat. So they have a whole bit dedicated to her intentionally going out of her way to run over a dog in their neighborhood. It's horrifying.
Yeah, Rasputia is, like, unironically one of the most evil characters in movie history.
She really gives Sephiroth a run for his money in terms of just pure evil.
We need an edit of Sephiroth bringing down the supernova meteor, and it's Rasputia.
Oh, like, well, I mean, Rasputia turns herself into a fucking missile when she goes down the slide so fast.
Yeah.
This is one of those movies where there's, like, a lot of incidental death that I think in post got turned into, like... Because, like, she runs over the dog, and then they mention the dog is in the hospital. I feel like I see movies all the time where some writer wanted to kill a dog, and then they work in a line about the dog being in a hospital, so it's not, like, too much of a bummer. I feel like I see that all the time lately.
Got a point.
Yeah, And then, I feel like it's an infamous scene from all the trailers where Rasputia goes down a water slide, and it looks so much like she's gonna crush a kid. Like, that's exactly what it looks like. But they go back, and the joke is that all of the water in the pool has flown out, and the kid is fine.
Anyways, Dav,
fucking movie.
Keep talking about Norbit.
I can't. I don't even know if I can communicate like the premise of this movie. I think it's just like he ends up in a marriage he doesn't like, and then he goes and runs off with some other lady.
See, if you describe the movie like that, it sounds like it could be like an A24 film.
They did a remake, and it's The Whale.
Oh, yeah.
All right, enough about Norbit. I'm passing it on.
I do, Dav, did Norbit put you in the mood to watch, You People, coming out on Netflix this weekend?
I don't even know what that is.
It is, like, kind of a soft comeback for Eddie Murphy, where, like, Jonah Hill, it's a rom-com, but the lead is Jonah Hill and another actress, and said actress's, father is Eddie Murphy. And Eddie Murphy does not approve of his daughter dating a white man. So it ends up being kind of one of those meet the parents situations. I haven't seen it yet. I don't know if it's good.
Well, I think Eddie Murphy peaked in Meet Dave, and I'm just gonna leave it at that.
He said he'd come back to be Donkey, with Puss in Boots being such a success. It wouldn't surprise me.
I don't doubt that.
Yeah. All right. Well, sounds like you're about done with Norbit. I'll take the wheel. I want to talk about something much more dignified. We've been spending a lot of time in the arcade lately. And I always just love a little arcade surprise, a little arcade, something fun about a finite experience with an arcade. I'm like, oh, I gotta go back sometime. I played the dignified video game SNK Heroines Tag Team Frenzy. This game is a fan service fighter that nobody likes. This game came out and the SNK fans were like, hiss. Like, nope, take it back to the kitchen. This is a fighter with all female characters and a couple of Rule 63 characters from SNK universe. The plot...
Yeah, isn't it like... There's Terry and Geese is another one?
Terry and Iori.
Oh.
So Terry is Rule 63, like he gets an all new design and is turned into a woman. Iori is straight up a man in drag.
Oh, really?
And so you open up the character select screen, it's all your favorite SNK heroines, and here's when I knew I was home. Hear me out. So all of the SNK heroines, the plot of this is that a character called Kukri from King of Fighters 14 and 15, he's the hooded guy, Will, if you remember him.
Yep.
He teleports them all to a mansion and is making them fight, and he gives them all skimpy outfits against their will. And when you're scrolling through the character select, you're filing through, and it's Mai Shiranui, and it's Leona, and it's Luong. And they're all drawn in artwork looking mortified of their new outfits, as if against their will. And then you get to Best Girl, Shermie, who is without shame and unbothered and grinning that she is participating in this situation. And I was like, that's my girl. That's the one. So people kind of bit back at this game, like, why are you giving us this bullshit? What are you talking about? And I'm not gonna act like it's like great. Like it is like, the thing about it is a hyper simplified SNK fighter. They take all of the inputs down to the most simple place you can get them. But what's kind of fun, what I kind of enjoyed, is that KOing your opponent is not a matter of just emptying their life bar. You have to get them to a critical point, and then only one of your finishing special moves will destroy their life bar. So you have to, so if you like get them to a point where they're at critical health and you biff your special a bunch of times in a row, or, you know, something like that occurs, you kind of are shit out of luck. And I kind of just appreciate any fighting game that gives an object as opposed to just empty the other guy's life bar. I do kind of like how you can't just end this fight with a light jab. You have to do one of your impressive super moves and make the other girl explode into a bunch of sparkles and themed accoutrements. So because of that, I honestly had a fun time with this. I am not ashamed to admit that I kind of stan SNK Heroines Tag Team Frenzy.
Damn, that's a bold claim, but also one that only you could make, Sherm.
Yeah. You know, it's not high art. The thing I love about SNK games too is that, you know, I feel like a lot of fighting games kind of say fuck it with the story, but SNK, even for a silly little spin-off like this, they put in the effort. There's always cutscenes between each fight, and they're always personalized to your fighter. You get to pick a team of two. I was Shermie and Yuri Sakazaki, and between each fight, Kukuri was spying on them from his mansion, and kind of, you know, setting up his next plan. He was speaking Japanese, so I don't know what he was up to, but I don't know if I need to infer a lot about his motives to put the SNK girls in skimpy outfits and make them fight. Shrug. I think it's kind of fun he's the main villain, because I like him a lot as a character in other stuff, and this is a very funny role for him. He's a very funny character. One of my favorite reaction images I have saved is his win quote from King of Fighters 14, where he simply says, "To commemorate this moment, I've posted your picture on the internet. You're welcome." And I feel like his plot in this game is like the embodiment of that, where he's some 4chan weirdo forcing everybody to fight. Good game. Normal game. Good game. Back to you, Will.
Yeah, well, before we go, can you tell the people at home why Shermie is a very special character for us here at West Coast Toast and Roast?
Oh, yes. So years ago, you know what? I'm gonna look up something to make us feel old as shit. Because this all started when you and our friend Troy went to go see Mr. Peabody in Sherman in theaters. This was a 2014 film. So 9 years ago, this joke started. When you went to go see Mr. Peabody in Sherman. And our friend Troy has a habit of talking through movies, and simply we grew very fond of the way he says Sherman, to the point that when we want to confirm an affirmative feeling to one another, instead, in a way that's a pun on the words sure, comma, man, we simply text each other the name Sherman. And that eventually delved into my nickname, in addition to the stingiest man in town, is that I gradually became Sherman, to the point that you would incidentally call me Sherman, and our classmates in college would grow confused, and you would like trick them into thinking Sherman is my middle name, which it is not. So when we got into SNK fighters at a certain point, we were kind of late adopters. We weren't into SNK as long as we've been into Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. I gravitated towards the character of Shermie. We love a grappler girl. And you kind of would say Shermie from King of Fighters to differentiate Sherman from Mr. Peabody and Sherman from yours truly, from Shermie from King of Fighters. And now I am Shermie from King of Fighters.
You're just like Norbit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The stingiest Norbit in King of Fighters.
Hey, speaking of characters, actors playing two characters in the same scene, I've got another toast.
Let's hear it.
So that is for Brandon Cronenberg's Infinity Pool. Brandon Cronenberg, son of David Cronenberg, did a movie called Antiviral, which I haven't seen yet, but then he did Possessor, which I absolutely adored, so I was really excited for Infinity Pool, and it didn't disappoint me. The Cronenbergs have a very specific style of how they do stuff that isn't for everyone, to be fair. But I really loved how he pulled this off. So the plot is these two tourists. One of them is like a failed writer. The other one is the daughter of like a publishing empire. Go to this fictional country, and by chance it happens they kill someone. They accidentally hit someone with a car. So the punishment for killing someone is death. However, they give the option to spend a large amount of money to have themselves cloned, and that clone has all their memories, so they think it's the real one, and have the clone killed instead. And that is such a fucking horrifying idea to me. Because, like, besides the basic, like, oh, am I the clone? Just the idea of creating an entire another person who thinks they're you and killing them for something you did is just terrifying to me. Mia Goth, who's been a bit of a horror staple lately, is in it, and she does great. She's the kind of pseudo-villain in it. The effects are really cool. They're not as cool as Possessor, which I was a bit bummed about. But like when the cloning process happens, there's a lot of great effects that I really love. And then it also just is a really cool story about like guilt and how we absolve ourselves of the things we don't like. Because as soon as the clone gets killed, the main character kind of views his guilt of killing someone as absolved. So eventually he clones himself multiple times, and with each of those clonings, he loses a bit of himself that makes him who he is. And I think that's a really cool idea, and I think it's done very well in this movie. It's very character-driven, like the story is very simple, but I think the kind of ideas that it, puts forward are just really good and really scary, and I love the whole thing.
I saw this today as well, and I wasn't quite... This is very much a Will project. This isn't me, I don't have a laundry list of issues or anything, but it is a lot. I don't...
Yeah, it's a very...
Go on.
It's a hard movie to watch at times.
I'm like... thinking back to imagery that was definitely in that movie, and I'm like, did that happen? Did I actually just take that in and like sit there and take it?
Yeah, and I saw this movie with my mom. So,
oh, Jesus Christ.
Which she also really enjoyed it. No, the movie is, it's a Cronenberg movie, regardless of father and son, the imagery is going to be very, like, horrific. But this one is very visceral in the fact that, unlike something like Crimes of the Future, which even though I didn't like it, I liked the effects, the gore and like graphic imagery is very down to earth and realistic, and it kind of makes it that much harder to watch.
And you were talking about Mia Goth, and I agree, she's terrific in this, and she's getting to be like one of my favorite, at least like modern actors, because like. Even if I wasn't super hot on this movie, she just steals the scene every time she appears. And it's kind of like, there's a vibe to her that's like you have like someone I kind of think is in a similar space, like Anya Taylor-Joy, who's a girl who's played some scary characters, but it's like, I get the impression she's relatively normal and just like a person everyday life. I feel like if you like followed Mia Goth home after filming, there's a non-zero chance there's like something fucked going on.
Yeah.
She is her partner is Shia LaBeouf, so I think who knows what's going on there. Yeah, I thought, Will, have you heard about the movie Duel?
No, I haven't heard about it.
It came out last year, and like, not to like rain on this movie kind of just made me want to watch that one again. It's nowhere near a horror, but it does a similar concept of cloning, and it made me think of that one a lot. The plot of that one is that Karen Gillan gets a terminal illness, and there's a program in this universe where she can have a clone of herself made to replace herself in her family. So there's no, like, to ease mourning and to ease transition of life. So she has this clone made, and then she finds out she isn't actually going to die. And by law, in this future, if someone in their clone can't coexist, and they must have a duel to the death to decide who gets to proceed existing.
Oh, that sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, it's like, I would say it does not go in direct. Aaron Paul is in it, is what I want to mention as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he like tutors Karen, because they get a year to train, and he plays a guy who is famous for managing to kill his clone, and he's training Karen Gillan to do the best she can.
I gotta add this to my list then.
Yeah. I will say it has a very offbeat sense of humor, and it kind of skews in a totally different direction for the ending. But I'd be interested to see what you think about it, because I do not think you'll like it as. I think it's like Infinity Pool is the Will take on clones, and Duel is the Tommy take, and those are not compromisable. Yeah, I can't guarantee. It just kind of came to mind for me.
I mean, I'll definitely give it a chance and a fair shake.
Yeah, all right.
Because it sounds like at least kind of like a good time.
Absolutely, yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to bring up about that one?
No, I'm very pleased that Brandon Cronenberg has had 2 movies that I've really, really enjoyed. I know it's greedy to ask, like, when's the next one? But I'm really looking forward to seeing what he has next.
Yeah.
Other than that, I will pass it to Dav.
Okay, Black Dynamite.
Dynamite.
Dynamite! God, okay. Another movie night pick. This was so fucking fun. Big old toast for Black Dynamite. Which is a blaxploitation parody film. It was released in 2009, but it is presented in the style of like a 1970s sort of cop serial almost. And it's just fucking hilarious. It's got like airplane humor. It's awesome.
There's like a Twitter thread earlier that very day that was like, what film or piece of work functions as a parody of something and as like an autonomous piece of that genre? And it seemed as though the definitive answer for blaxploitation was Black Dynamite.
And rightfully so.
Rightfully so.
I think.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, strong first impression is that I think the first joke in the film is that Black Dynamite has 2 women in bed, and he's like crawling out to go on to his endeavors, and they're like, "Oh, you're so great, Black Dynamite." Black Dynamite goes, "Quiet, you're gonna wake the other bitches," and the bed is full of even more women. Fucking amazing.
There are so many moments in this movie that are just pure gold, and it's such a quotable film too. So
What's your favorite quote from it?
God, that's such a hard thing to choose too, because there's so many good ones. I mean, "You're gonna wake up the rest of the bitches" is a good one. But also, I really like the scene where, because he's like sweet on a particular woman in this, and they're like walking around the neighborhood together, and they run into like these like 2 little girls who are kind of like playing on the street, and the woman is like talking to them, and she's like, "Well, this is Black Dynamite," and the 2 little girls are like, "My mommy said my dad's name is Black Dynamite," and the other girl said that too, and then he's just like, "A lot of cats around here have that name."
We lost our shit. There's like that whole meeting of the drug dealers. Black Dynamite crashes in. He's like, "Listen, there will be none of you are allowed to sell drugs in my neighborhoods." And one drug dealer is just like, "But Black Dynamite, I sell drugs in this neighborhood."
It's but Black Dynamite. I sell drugs in the community.
That's it. Yep, that's the one.
The way he delivers it is so funny.
They just nailed it perfectly.
It's also kind of a kung fu movie in a way because he's
Kung Fu Master.
the kung fu master, and he's like, there's a point where he's training, and he's like interrupted. He's like, "Who the hell is interrupting my kung fu?"
Yo, yeah. Amazing line of dialogue. Oh man, it is just very rare that I come across a film that just makes me like belly laugh the way this one does. You know, it has like a non-existent story. It is pure like gag. This couldn't happen. I don't mean this in a people are too politically correct way. I mean it in a people fear unconventional story structure or parody way that this would not happen today. I feel like.
Yeah, I think it's kind of incongruent with a lot of people's like sense of humor. Because this type of movie was really big in like the 80s, but it kind of slowly fell off. And even like this movie, this came out in 2009. It was on a budget of like $3 million. It only made like 300,000.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah, it was kind of a flop. It is not everybody's cup of tea, but it did get a pretty good cult following. There was like a TV show that came out as like a spin-off.
An adult, yeah,
and
an adult,
yeah, an Adult Swim. And I think they are still in talks of doing like a sequel, but who knows where that's going. So,
man, what is a comedy even now? Because I feel like it's like if you're making a comedy, it's just gonna get like dumped on Netflix or something. Like,
it's like the like Adam Sandler sort of schlock that comes out like every year, and everybody universally seems to hate it, but they make so much money anyway.
Well, it's like, when's the last time you went to the theater being like, oh, I can't wait to see this comedy movie? Like,
yeah, that's a good point. Like, you never hear about like Step Brother type movies anymore.
Well, it's like now it's like if you're laughing at the theater, it's because like something like Megan comes out and knows what to prey on those points. You know what I mean? Like, we've gone into like a full irony cave-in. That's kind of depressing.
Yeah, it's usually like other genres mixed with comedy, like Thor: Love and Thunder or something.
Oh, Jesus.
That is unfortunate.
Are we gonna fully discuss Mithrigan on this pod? Was that, or either you planning to bring that up?
I haven't seen
I don't
it.
think so.
Can I real quick share? I have a slight vice in watching highlights of the Drew Barrymore talk show on her YouTube page, and she had the woman from Megan, Allison Williams, on, and Drew Barrymore put on full like Megan cosplay and role played Megan throughout their interview, and it is one of the most upsetting things I've ever seen.
Is it like cringe or is it just uncomfortable?
Drew Barrymore put on a blonde wig and like the Megan dress and like the creepy blue contacts and falls to her knees to talk to Allison Williams in like a robotic, in like a robotic Megan voice. It is the most disturbing thing. And I kind of
I think she might have
she might have what?
I think she might have gotten her sense of humor from one of her exes.
I was gonna say, listen.
Oh.
She dated Tom Green for a while. Let her process this however she needs to. And poor Allison Williams, like, just can't hold it together. Like, I can't tell. She's clearly, like, she's, like, non-seriously uncomfortable and just can't stop laughing or, like, answering any of the questions seriously. And eventually Drew Barrymore tries to do the run on all four.
Oh, God.
It is a fucking shit show. I would still work for Megan on a talk show before I worked for Ellen. We'll leave it there.
Yeah. That's I agree with that.
Yeah. But yeah, sequels are the only things that get funded lately anymore, so it would not surprise me if we randomly saw Black Dynamite 2, a sequel to a film that didn't make much in the box office and would get like a Confess Fletch-esque shit show run where it does not get distributed, and people are like, why didn't you go see it? Guess we won't fund the things anymore. You know, one of those enraging situations.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening, unfortunately. But yeah, great movie. I'll pass it off to you.
Alrighty, cool. I'm going to talk about a game I've been engrossed with recently, and I'm nearing the end of, that being Pokemon Scarlet. Now, this has been a controversial release, and I don't want to even act like for a second that I'm going to say some positive things about this game. In fact, many positive things. I never like being the abrasive one when I have the unpopular opinion. Like, I don't like to be like, actually, you all slept on it, and this is a hidden gem. I'd rather explore, okay, well, why does this speak to me in particular? Because this game has some crazy glitches, and it was clearly rushed along, and the Pokemon business model is not sustainable. I'm just saying, as far as the highest grossing franchise in the world goes, I expect more, and it was dethroned by Winnie the Pooh recently, as far as I heard. So there, we'll see how that goes. Pokemon Scarlet, if they maybe gave it a little more time in the oven, could have been one of the best Pokemon games ever. I feel confident saying that. I'm not saying it is. But there is some honestly pretty great shit in this. Even as someone who, you know, every time there's a new Pokemon game, I'm like, I don't know if it looks good. I don't think I'm gonna buy it. Then like, something hits in the very last quarter, and I'm like, wait, I'm left out. I want to play. And I end up playing it. And even someone who kind of cravenly gave into X and Y and Sun and Moon and Sword and Shield, I'll talk shit about those games and say they're all way too easy. I could beat them with my eyes shut. I mean, no question, forget about it. Pokemon Scarlet, I don't think it quite takes you back to like how hard Black and White was, but it is a challenging game. With some effort, I've blacked out once or twice to some of the stronger opponent trainers. It is the open world Pokemon game everyone always wanted. I think, roughly. You see everything in front of you on the overworld. If you take a wrong turn when you're at level 5, you will run into a level 40 fucking Hariyama, and he will fold you like laundry. And that's just, you gotta plan for that. What I also really enjoyed is, so when the game starts, you kind of have 3, like, story paths in front of you. You can either tackle Victory Road, which is challenging the gym leaders, Elite Four, and Champion. Team Starfall, which is taking down the villain team, Team Star. And then Hunting for the Titans, where you're tracking down the Titan Pokemon, who are giant variants of Pokemon. All that jazz. You can tackle you get a map. It's simply, if you want to take this gym, it's over here. If you want to go right to the 8th gym, right off the bat, it's over here. And you can walk there and figure it out. So you can tackle any aspect of this game in any order. And there's some hints as to, like, what order to go in. Like, if you're looking at the map, you can mouse over it and it'll say, this gym is often recommended for new trainers. And then you mouse over here and it's like, this gym is for someone more experienced. But it's a Wild West. Like, I've wandered into shit that I've been completely underleveled for, and there's a certain degree of adrenaline of being just completely out of my depth and using pure, like, Pokemon cheese of drilling weaknesses and taking advantage of shit just to get out alive and not black out. It is not, they don't hold your fucking hand and say, you're not strong enough to come here yet. No, if you wander into the 3rd member of Team Star before taking on anyone else, you're fucked. That's what you're doing. And it was situations where, like, I would be dead if you didn't miss that attack. And it is, like, the bizarre feeling of it all. I loved how this game handled this. It was just incredibly fun to very intentionally skew the difficulty against myself and get an experience that actually feels like a challenge again. For someone who has played Pokemon since I've been in diapers and knows all of the shit, I think it came together really nicely in that regard.
Well, I mean, you say you play Pokemon since you were in diapers, but you still wear them, so...
Well, I'm going to give you 5 seconds to go back in time and not say that, please. I should have seen that coming. I kind of walked into that one. I'd say my one regret and the one problem with the system... There's a couple smallish... Like, the thing is, if you do take on a stronger gym leader ahead, then a weaker one doesn't get stronger. So there is a certain point where if I go out of order, I'm going to have to go back and clean up the trash, and it's a little bit boring. But I think it's still... Sorry?
I was just going to say, and you just kind of steamrolled.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a bummer, honestly. But it's still well worth it. Also, okay, here's another... And the other thing is... like I said, there's those 3 story branches. And it's either, come with me and you'll take on the gym leaders. And another character says, come with me to take down Team Star. Then Arvin offers, hey, come with me and we'll get ingredients for sandwiches. And I was like, no, not right now. Other stuff sounds more interesting. So what ended up happening was I cleared the Victory Road and Team Starfall before even touching the Titan Hunt. And it turns out that one is not only the most interesting story, but it is kind of imperative you do it, because as you clear through that story, you get more abilities on the overworld that would have come in handy. So that's my only PSA, is don't ignore Arvin, even though his story sounds boring. It's actually great, and you kind of need to do it. I kind of wish I knew that. What can you do? It's he said we're gonna go find the Titans. Each Titan Pokemon has a Titan herb that makes them healthy and grow. And his motivation is that he's trying to heal his sick Pokemon, Mabastiff. And it's a big old cute dog. And I was like with him every step of the way. I wanted that dog to feel better. And when all 3 stories...
Yeah, I mean, it's just sad that, the dog gets better and then Rasputia runs it over.
Yeah. This is a real shame. I kind of cried at that part.
Gym leader Rasputia would like to battle. Oh, man. And I guess I don't want to go into spoilers, but when all 3 stories converge and you get to the final boss, it's some of my favorite climax stuff a Pokemon game has ever done. I really, I think... When I first started, when trailers were rolling out, I was like, the characters all look like they have a kind of awkward, samey, create a character mold. And normally I love Pokemon characters, and at first I wasn't feeling the designs. The more you get used to them, the later gym leaders are cool as fuck. Kofu is the water one. He's this jolly chef who teaches you how to gamble at an auction. He's like your he's your cool grandpa. Rhyme is this old lady who raps and trains ghost types, and she's the coolest. My favorite is Tulip. She is the psychic type gym leader, and she is absurdly cute, and she openly flirts with you, and I really got a kick out of that. Let me tell you, I am a lonely person. Not even sorry. And the villains in the end, again, I don't want to give it away. I've told you about it a bit, Will. It's kind of some of the coolest shit in a Pokemon game. I really like how it turned out. I think people know what I'm talking about. So yeah, I had to gush about that. I think it's a bummer that mileage varies so much, because people are getting some bad, like, inexcusable glitches for shit like this. The worst I've had is, like, sometimes a character that I'm talking to will just be invisible.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like, I was talking to the gym leader Brassius, and he's very, like, he's an avant-garde artist, and there's this speech bubble on the screen that says Brassius, but I don't see him, and I'm like, oh, he's, like, off-screen, he's gonna make, like, a showy appearance. Then the cutscene ends, and he never does. I'm like, oh, I guess the game just did not load his model.
I remember of wish that they'd at least just like put out a patch to fix that kind of stuff, because from what people say, this is one of the like best Pokemon games story-wise recently. But there's just like so many like issues with, you know, the legendaries you ride like falling into the ground and then falling forever.
Yep. And your character will like become a Sonic 06 abomination, like stretch out, horrifying shit.
And you'll talk to somebody and they'll go awooga, and their eyes will pop out of their head.
Yup. I really haven't come across that, is the bummer, so I just can't. It's just like the oddity here and there. Sometimes it chugs a little. I really think it would have been worth it. Just give it... The Switch isn't going anywhere. I wish they just gave it another year or so in the oven to iron out some of this shit. Because I think it's honestly... It could have been one of the best Switch games. As it is even, I'm having a wonderful time with it. But I have a hard time genuinely endorsing it, all things considered. That's just where I'm at. Alright, Will. Take it from here.
Alright, well, Dav probably knows this, but I'm going to do another toast, and that is for Persona 3 Portable for the Steam Deck.
Oh yeah.
So I'm a Persona fan. You know, after Joker got in Smash Bros, I played 5, and then Dav lent me his PS Vita, I think it was, to play 4.
Yeah.
But then I tried playing 3, and I didn't like it when I played it back then. But now, for some reason, it feels a lot better, and I'm not sure why. But the game is just probably... I mean, it's definitely the most, like, serious of the 3 kind of mainstream Personas, because it's about death and sadness and losing the people you love, but it's, put forward in a really good way. Like, the game does have its, like, usual Persona things, like, oh, look at you dating all these girls, but then it's also, like, gives you an opportunity to talk with like a monk who lost his family, and a dude who's terminally ill, and a girl whose parents are getting divorced. So it feels very I guess there's no other way to put it. It just feels very mature in the way it like puts out things. Whereas as much as I like love Persona 4 and 5, sometimes things like lost their depth when they were like played for humor.
Yeah, 5 started off very serious and then immediately abandoned that for the rest of the game.
Yeah, pretty much.
Quickly became codename Kids Next Door.
Yeah. And Persona 5 is still my favorite out of all of them, and I can like excuse its shortcomings because everything else is fucking amazing. This one definitely also has its shortcomings, like when you get confidants. In other games, it'll give you like a cool ability, but in this game, it's just to get more personas, and sometimes that's a little boring. And then you can't actually talk and do confidants with any of the people in your party with the same gender. So if you play as the male, you can't do the male confidants in your party, and if you're the female, you can't do the female counterparts.
Fucking oppression. Unacceptable.
But, like, not even as a dating thing, you don't even get to, like, talk to them.
What the Okay, well...
Yeah. And then for if you want to do confidants with your party members, you have to max out all your stats, and that is such a pain in the ass to do.
Yeah, you're not even, like, talking to your female... Like, if you're playing as the male protagonist, you're not talking to, like, Yukari or Fuka or Mitsuru until, like, the end of the game.
Yeah, and it's you know, it's kind of a bummer, because, like, Persona 5 did that too, like, to talk to Futaba, you have to have maxed out kindness, but you get so much time to max it out. In this, it's, like, literally the first party member you have, you can't talk to her unless you max out your stats.
Golly, alright.
And that's kind of my big problem with it, but... That being said, I think these probably they might have my favorite, like, party member persona designs, because you have really cool things like Hermes and Nemesis, so the like standard character personas are really cool. And then also going through Tartarus, which is, if you can't tell, it's got a bit of a Greek theme. Going through Tartarus is kind of like going through Mementos, but like 10 times a bit more like repetitive.
It's the entire like core dungeon. It's not like Persona 5 where your main dungeons are different every time and they're specifically tailor-made. It's a procedurally generated dungeon, and that's the entire thing.
Yeah. So that can definitely get old, but the story is just so good and the characters are so great that I can definitely excuse its shortcomings.
Even as like, I like Persona 5. I like the time we spent with mostly watching you play it, but I like those characters a lot. But do they have like? Is this as good a cast as Persona 5?
Say so, honestly.
I personally say that they're better.
Wow.
I think most of them are well written. Beyond that, if you actually do get the chance to talk to them, and their roles in the story feel a lot more. I guess they feel more like individuals. Like for example, Persona 5. Pretty much every single one of your party members, they kind of exist for you, if that makes sense. They have backgrounds, but all of those backgrounds, like tragic backstories and such, end up being tied to like the main villain in kind of a loosey-goosey way. But in Persona 3, everybody has like their trauma and their backstories, and then one example I like to point out is Junpei, who's kind of like your main guy friend in the party. He goes from being kind of just like the ordinary like sleazy pervy guy to this very fleshed out, in depth like romance subplot that he has with another character. And to just have that autonomy just existing separate from you is kind of cool to see when you compare it to something like 4 or 5, where all the characters don't really have anything like that.
Interesting, okay.
Yeah, so the battles are really tough too. Like there are certain bosses that I'm like, okay, how the fuck do I get through this?
Oh yeah.
But it's like, I mean that in a good way.
I see. Okay. I remember Persona 5 having some. Is this? I hate to keep bringing it back to 5, but that's my only real focal point. Tougher or easier than that one? Because I remember there was like 1 or 2 bosses that like put you through the ringer.
Gosh, I mean, the thing is, there were certain bosses in Persona 5 that were tough because they were badly designed, like the Okumura Palace boss.
Yeah.
I think Dev can agree with me in saying that was one of the worst things ever.
Yeah.
But, like, a lot of the bosses are just very, like, you have to think, they require a lot more thought, I'll say that.
It's more of a strategic sort of thing.
Yeah.
Interesting. And the most important question, what's the mascot of this one like?
You'd probably really like it. It's a dog named Koromaru.
Oh, I gotta check this out.
Yeah. And he doesn't talk. He's just a dog.
Wonderful.
He barks.
Does this one get run over by gym leader Rasputia?
Yes, he does.
I do want to add, just to inject some, because I think I'm the only one here who's played like the original Persona 3. Specifically, I played FES. Comparing that to Portable is really tough to do because there are so many trade-offs. Because like FES is set up much more like Persona 4. I don't know if you've seen any like gameplay of that, Tommy.
Which one? I'm sorry.
Persona 4.
A little bit vaguely. But what?
They run pretty much on the same engine. I think they were released only like 2 or 3 years apart from each other. So that version, which was on the PS2, has like a 3D overworld. It has full animated cutscenes. It's overall, I think it's aged very well, and it's pretty indistinguishable from Persona 4 in a lot of aspects. But it doesn't have the female protagonist from P3P, which is kind of like its own story on its own. So, if you like that protagonist, you would be missing out on it. And you cannot have full control over your party members.
Oh.
You can just give them vague like directions to act in battle, and they kind of go off of that, and it doesn't always go very well.
I never like that in a game. I'm a keeper. I want that control because I don't want anything to chance that my party member is gonna like fuck me over.
Right.
Well, I mean, Dav, tell them about what you had happen to you at the final boss.
So I have never finished Persona 3 because when I got to the very final boss in the entire game, certain members of my party were leveled up enough, I think, to fight it, but they were acting in such insanely stupid ways that I could not possibly kill the boss.
Oh no.
Like, it would go to Mitsuru in particular, who... Because at that point, what you really wanted to do was do as much damage as possible, because if you took too many turns, the boss would completely heal itself, and you would start all over.
Oh.
And Mitsuru, instead of doing any attacks or damage, even when I put her on full attack, would just try to brainwash it, which I don't think is even possible.
Oh no, I don't.
So, little 14-year-old me threw a fit and uninstalled the game, and I was like, alright, I'm just gonna play P3P. I never really got around to it until now with the re-release. And so I have gone in kind of excitedly, and I haven't played as far as Will yet. But from what I have played, I started to notice a lot of things that I was not expecting to be missing. Like 3D overworld, I think there's a lot to love about that in the original Persona 3. I don't think it's a deal breaker to not have it in this one. What I think was kind of a deal breaker was going through the intro of the game and having no animated cutscenes, and it's just being like screenshots from the cutscenes. And
It's just weird, like, from a data standpoint. Like, they can't be that big.
No, it's... Because, the game still has, like, 3D exploration in the dungeons, but it's so weird how much you're missing when it's, like, in the game, what even, like, the in-engine sort of, like, the conversations, a character model would, like, get up and go somewhere, and there would be, like, noticeable body language and stuff. And then in P3P, where it's just like a visual novel, and then there's like a little bubble that says, Yukari stands up and walks to the door.
Oh, boy.
And it's just a hole in your heart, like, oh my god, I can't believe that, like, actually feels as bad as it does.
Yikes.
So I am holding out hope, like, desperately holding out hope that Atlas actually is working on the long-rumored Persona 3 remake to combine all of the good things from FES and P3P and put them together in, like, Persona 5's engine, because I think that would probably be a contender for the best Persona game, period.
That's what I love.
I think that possibly could, yeah.
That's what I love about video games, is that every best feature is an asset in a different version, and there's nothing definitive. 2 thumbs up.
Anyways, minus the shortcomings.
Sorry, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, minus the shortcomings, I think it's really fun.
Yeah, it's still a fun game. It's Persona. It's great.
Yeah. So I'm going to pass the turn to Dav, and hopefully he won't try to brainwash the boss.
I'll try not to. Boys, I think we're gonna have a bit of a spoiler here for our December podcast this year.
Man, oh man.
Because I think my game of the year might have already dropped, and I'm going to toast it today.
Jesus.
That is Hi-Fi Rush, which came literally out of nowhere last week. Just dropped onto our laps.
Shadow dropped.
In the in the Bethesda presentation. Which little bit of a side note here. Bethesda is really desperate to distract people from the fact that they haven't talked about Starfield or Elder Scrolls 6 in 5 years. So I guess I can forgive them for now for at least dropping this. But Hi-Fi Rush is a kind of a throwback sort of game. It's meant to evoke like the platformers on specifically like the PS2, Dreamcast, original Xbox era. You know, you got like your Psychonauts, your Sly Coopers, that sort of deal.
That's cool.
And
That's cool. Sorry.
Yeah, it does that so fucking well. I mean, to be playing this and to feel nostalgic is crazy because it feels like one of those games, and like not just as a platformer, it's also like a character action hack and slash game, and it's a rhythm game. So it's combined all of these genres that I love and just perfectly puts them together in harmony.
I was gonna, like, it does, like, back on, like, it feels like the PS2 was the last generation where someone could be like, what if we just made a genre of game? And what if there was a third-person platformer where you collect monkeys on the PS2? And no one has that conversation anymore. People would say, what are you talking about? And this feels like a very intentional, like, hit on that level of brain chemistry.
It really is, and to add on to that, it's what I would call like a double A game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, anymore, most video games seem to either be like a little tiny passion project indie darling, or a giant AAA cash grab release. And this is like that middle ground that has kind of disappeared over the years.
Give me a 6 to 8 hour thing that I feel like nobody crunched to finish.
Exactly, yeah. There's so much passion. I mean, this was a passion project for the director, John Johannes, who he like pitched it in 2017, and you can feel his direction just in every square inch of this game. It's there's a lot of passion behind it. And what's kind of weird is it was developed by Tango Gameworks, and their previous games include The Evil Within, The Evil Within 2, and developed in parallel with this game, Ghostwire Tokyo.
Oh, man.
So they've made pretty much only, like, horror action games, and then they come in and just make this bright, neon, mid-2000s jet set radio sort of game, and they do it perfectly. Like, better than I think any of those other games were on their own.
And, like, Ghostwire Tokyo was one of my biggest bummers last year. I rented it, and it was like just like it wanted to be a billion things, and it was nowhere near its own thing. It wanted to be Doom, and it kind of wanted to be, I guess, like I don't know, Monster Hunter or Tsushima a little bit, and it was just nothing. So I see where some of the the sauce went. I guess I'm glad they just let him cook. Even if it did result in just like a shadow drop that I'm sure that startles people where it's like, oh, it's out today? Is it good? Like, what's going on?
Yeah. There wasn't even enough time for like reviewers to go through it and give their thoughts, so there wasn't like any need for an embargo. Mm-hmm. There wasn't time for like controversy to set in before, you know, any like pre-orders, because there were no pre-orders. It just came out and you played it if it interested you. And as a result, this game is sitting at, I think, like 98 or 99% positive on Steam right now.
Oh, wow.
And well-deserved. I mean, I ended up giving it a 10 out of 10 just because it's that fucking good.
And you said it jumped up to, like, your number 3 game of all time?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Right between Persona 5 and Hades.
Hot diggity dog.
It's... I mean, I just can't get... Like, all the genres that it does so well. I mean, even as, like, a pretty avid rhythm gamer, it's really impressive how they integrated that into the real-time action.
And, sorry, Will, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, is it, like, kind of is the story pretty good as well? Like...
Yeah, so the story isn't even, like, it's not, like I was saying about like AAA releases where they have like the big grand things. It doesn't feel like it's trying to be this big grand definitive, the world is at stake sort of story. It's very like an intimate story, kind of pretty small scale, but and just enough world building to like keep you interested. And the main characters that you spend time with are also very good and well written and compelling. And I mean, overall, the story I thought was really great for what it is.
Oh, that's great to hear. It sounds just like really cool and I mean, I guess, speaking of Redline, it kind of sounds like a game version of that where it's just super colorful and cool and it doesn't have to like say something about the human experience to be good.
No. And it's
I was gonna say there's a JoJo guy, right?
Yeah, Zanzo, one of the bosses, he goes through a bunch of JoJo poses. They put the go 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 signs around him and stuff.
I love just like a legion of bad guys that you pick off one by one. Always a delight.
Yeah, they do some really. I mean, the bosses. There wasn't a single boss in this game that I was disappointed with. They are all so fun, and they all are like completely unique from each other too.
Most excellent.
Like the one I sent you that picture of like Corsica. Her boss fight is all parries.
Oh,
it is just completely like almost like a Rhythm Heaven thing too, where it's like she'll do a certain number of beats in a measure, and you have to repeat that as parries.
Golly. Yeah, that's like big Metal Gear Rising energy, where it's like each boss in that game is specifically designed to like put you through the ringer with one specific mechanic, and I kind of get the feeling this goes there as well.
Yeah, I think it does have a lot of those vibes. And there are bosses I don't even want to tell you about because they are that. All I'll say is there's the second to last boss in the game is the accountant. I'm not going to say a single word about what happens there because you need to see that for yourself blind. You cannot be spoiled on that. It is insane.
Well, a character called the accountant is extra powerful this time of year because he's working. He has to get back to work. Tax season, of course. He's like in demand.
Well, I mean, he literally is the accountant of the company. His name is like Roquefort or something.
Oh, I love shit like that. We're kind of mundane jobs, but they're like the best fighters.
It's the Simpsons quote of, "But Marge, we haven't seen the little guy do anything yet. You know it'll be cool."
Yeah, I mean, these the bosses are all like they're all employees of like the company, the big bad company. It is kind of a political game, but not in a like beat you over the head with it sort of way, and like again, like going back to like the 2000s and the 90s where you had political games that their messages were like there, but they weren't like turning to the audience and telling you what the message is.
Corporations are bad, and we just, you can roll with that without every real life parallel coming into play.
Yeah. And again, beyond that, the gameplay is insanely good. I mean, every movement you make is synced up to the beat. Like when the character runs, because there's different songs in every stage, and it's kind of like a different genre in every stage. And so they'll vary in speed, so sometimes you'll have kind of a slower one, sometimes it's just a super fast butt metal or whatever. The character will take steps and run exactly on tempo, and he'll like snap on the beat if you're just standing still, and the world around you, like the trees will be dancing, the lights will be flashing on and off at the beat.
That's fucking great.
And yeah, anytime if you attack, if you dodge or whatever on the beat, it gives you bonuses. It's better for you. Everything is just synchronized so fucking well. It's insane that the game doesn't even like really have any bugs either. It's just awesome to see something like this come out.
Christ. Is it like, and is it original music or is it like licensed tracks?
Kind of both. I think the licensed tracks, I think they like specifically were made for this game, but they're from bands like the Black Keys and Nine
Is
Inch
this
Nails.
Oh, that's
Well, it's the song
awesome.
from the trailer in the game is what I really wanted.
I think
Because,
so.
Will, do you recall what the song from the trailer is?
No, what
It is
is
the song that
it?
we designated the theme song to Kirby the movie.
Oh, the ooh, ooh, ooh.
Dav, have we told you
Actually-
about Kirby the movie?
I don't think so.
So it's just another similar to Sherman. It's one of those inside jokes that like just layered brain poisoning to the point that it only makes sense to us. And we got to a point where we would riff about a hypothetical like Illumination Kirby movie where the theme song is that song from the Hi-Fi trailer where it's going ooh, ooh, you don't want to see him hungry.
And do you know who plays Kirby in this movie, Dev?
Who plays Kirby?
Kevin James.
Oh
Opposite
my god.
Gabriel Iglesias as King DDD.
Well, I think you got to get that movie made.
Sure, I feel like there's gonna be like a shred of that in like the Illumination Nintendo verse.
I could see that, yeah.
Oh boy. Well, I'm so happy that Hi-Fi Rush came because it sounds like what we've needed. Like in a world where Sly Cooper got 3 games in a row on one console, and now it's like hard to get a new one for some reason.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I hope this does really well. So far, the reception has been great, but it hasn't been like flying off the shelves
Well,
necessarily.
because it's digital.
Not in like the
You
same.
can't fly
and
off
not
the
in-
shelf. Can't sit on.
Oh,
I don't know.
It's an Xbox exclusive, I guess that should be
Mhm.
noted. In the sense that any Xbox game is an Xbox exclusive, quote, meaning that it comes out on both the Xbox One and the Series and on PC. So, luckily for you guys having Steam Decks, you do get to play this because it's on
Yeah.
Steam. And I highly recommend you do. It is if you just want to like go through the story, it's like 8 hours. And there's a ton of post-game content too if it still interests you, but I'd say for $30, the 8 hours you get are awesome. You probably don't need more than that. And it's just good to see Xbox have an actually good exclusive after releasing shit like Gears 5 and Halo Infinite for the past few years, and I guess Forza and Flight Simulator if you're into those. So, yeah, definitely check this out. It is a 10 out of 10 for me, and I am gunning for Chai in the next Smash
Alright,
Brothers.
there we go.
And I will pass it off to
Chai
you.
might be like the potential like Xbox representative because it's not. I don't think it's going to be Master Chief at this point.
And
Well, if
Blinks
there
is
is
never
another
coming back.
Smash Brothers, because I think Sakurai said he's basically retired.
I don't think they're gonna stop making Smash Brothers though, even if he stops.
Yeah, fair
It
enough.
sells absurdly well. Yeah, everyone's.
Yeah, it's kind of a system seller.
Well, I guess for the last secluded topic for the night, while icing my poor injured knee as the stingiest man in town, binged a series called Miracle Workers from TBS, which can be found on HBO Max, asterisk, all things considered. Miracle Workers is an anthology series based on the writings of, I think his name is Simon Rich, and he's like just a columnist who does, a humorist and columnist who does satires. And this is almost like a Blackadder or American Horror Story-esque thing, but as a half-hour, not a 3-camera sitcom with a laugh track, but a half-hour comedy show. Each season has a different premise, but it's the same cast, playing different characters. Most notably, Daniel Radcliffe is always the lead. Steve Buscemi is always a prominent character. And then one of my favorite up-and-coming actresses, Geraldine Viswanathan, is always a prominent character. You may know her from Blockers. She is John Cena's daughter, and she is thoroughly wonderful, and I hope she's still doing amazing things. So season 1 of Miracle Workers takes place in heaven, and Steve Buscemi is God, and the other performers are his angels trying to perform miracles. And man, it's a hard thing to. Then season 2 takes us to the Dark Ages, and it takes place like in like kings and castles. Then season 3 is Oregon Trail, so it's always like a very distinct setting. The characters fit in like kind of weirdly similar slots. Steve Buscemi is always some kind of like fatherly authority figure of a kind. Daniel Radcliffe and Geraldine are always love interests, and there's this like weird tie around theming of I guess like fate and man, this is hard to articulate now that because it's a silly show. I should say that. When I say it has themes of fate and miracles and what is meant to be, they handle it in the silliest possible way. In the Heaven season, there are angels in a department of male nipples who don't know what to do. They have a useless job. They want to make male nipples squirt orange juice, and they can't make it happen because male nipples are useless. That's the kind of show this is. But it really gives some like, it can be a bit philosophical. Like, okay, Dav, it reminds me a bit of The Good Place, actually. In that even though it is so silly, it's very philosophical in how it approaches certain topics. Like in season 1, Steve Buscemi as God goes to visit his parents, and it turns out like there are multiple, quote unquote gods who have each created their own universe. And Steve Buscemi, God, has an inferiority complex because his world is not thriving. His siblings have created utopias. But it turns out it's because he's the only one who gave them free will. So it's this very funny comedy where his sibling is Titus Andromedon, who is like, why did you create giraffes? But it's like, oh, the world is imperfect because we have been bestowed a degree of free will, cruel as that is. And I think it's a very cool show. You don't always see such genre-heavy stuff that's, has a Blackadder-esque switch of premise every season. I like that a lot about it. It's almost a little... You get a little Monty Python. It's kind of a cosmic gumbo that way.
Yeah, it sounds super unique, kind of cool too.
They're trying. The new season is ostensibly done. It's called End Times, and it takes us to like Mad Max style things, like a post-apocalyptic Dust Bowl. And it was supposed to air on January 16th. And what edged me into discussing this topic over other things is because it has been delayed to an unknown date by more Warner Brothers shit. And I want it on the record how mad I am about it. Because the season is done, trailers were coming out that said January 16th, and we still just don't have it. And they tweeted like, hey, we're working on a new date, sorry, don't worry, you'll get it. But how things have been going, I'm kinda scared. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah. I wanted to support it, like, in the wake of that announcement, I binged the whole thing. The seasons are super short. The first one is, like, 7 episodes, then you get 2 sets of 10 or so episodes. So you can, like, I guess if you get a leg injury like I did, knock on wood, you'll be able to knock it out, honestly, in pretty quick order, and I think it lends itself really well to binge watching. You might get a little tired with how repetitive it can be, because it's like, Daniel Radcliffe and Geraldine Viswanathan are always love interests. There's always a crisis of faith of some kind, where a character loses their ideal. Dark Ages and Oregon Trail both have kind of a puritanical overtone of the characters because of the time period they're in. But I think the jokes are always pretty fresh. It leans into absurdity. You get cannibalism. You get angels turning into jelly beans. There's an episode where God wants to kill Bill Maher by blowing up his penis.
Jesus Christ.
And I love Steve Buscemi is like borderline a stoner in the role. He's like, help me open these jelly beans, and he's like the most powerful being in the universe. High recommend to Miracle Workers. It's thought-provoking, it's funny. I hope it is not being sold for parts like everything else in our hellish media landscape.
Well, well-constructed narrative comedies don't have a place here. You really got to go back to watching MILF Manor.
Or Big
Jesus.
Mouth.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I do. I was at a sports bar recently. TVs are going. I saw like a Joel McHale sitcom for like a workplace animal control comedy, and just like knowing you either have to be like fully serialized. It's gonna be like it wants to be the new Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and it's either gonna be the biggest fucking thing in the world, or it's gonna like cease to exist in a month. Oh, goodness gracious. We ready for the news?
Let's do
It's
it.
gonna be a weird
Sure.
one because I have like it's been a month of like tiny frivolous stories and then a big kind of upsetting bomb. So be prepared for that. The first thing I have on my docket is the M&Ms fucking die.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a victim of cancel culture, I guess.
It was just the most bizarre tweet I've ever come across. The M&M's official account being like, "We get it. It can be controversial. They're going away for a little bit."
Well, I think M&M's knows that everything they do is going to make headlines for some fucking reason, so they just have to do something.
Well, it's widely accepted. They're just teeing up something weird for like the Super Bowl, which it's gonna be hard to beat Baby Nut, which I didn't see coming. We'll see how that goes.
Or Puppy Monkey Baby, that's a
Oh,
classic.
Oh,
Can never beat
Jesus.
Puppy
Don't
Monkey Baby.
mention Puppy Monkey Baby, Dab.
Is there a good video essay on like history of Super Bowl commercials?
I'm sure there is something out there.
Maybe I make that. Donut Steel. No, that's me. We're getting some King of Fighters DLC. Will we got Shingo is here and he's fun and goofy. Kim is on his way. I don't need Sylvie Pala or that other person.
Oh, why people are freaking out over Sylvia Pala.
She bugs. It's Lucky Chloe too. I don't.
Honestly, you're kind of right.
I don't need her. We got a teaser for Invincible Season 2, animated by the Peepadoo guy. We kind of learned nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know why this is even on the...
Good old
Man,
Balak.
do you think... So is the whole show gonna look like that, you think? Or was that...
I don't think so.
I guess that's the whole reason I put it on there, is because I was like, is this what we're... It has, like, cool aspects, but it was just, like, a little weird to get used to. I don't know.
Well, and Balak, the guy who did the animation, he has like a ton of his own projects that he's working on, so I wouldn't be surprised if he just kind of like was brought on to do like some of the trailer and like supporting animation, but I cannot, because that's very distinctly his animation style. I don't see him putting all his energy into this show.
Yeah. I don't know. Like coming late 2023. Supposedly we're gonna get Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
So that he's going to be in The Boys too. So that means he's in both of Amazon superhero shows.
I'm all for it.
Wonderful stuff. Do we feel like talking Oscar noms?
Sure.
Man, I would listen. So listen, we talked about Puss in Boots at the Toasties, and I loved that movie. And like, I felt weirdly like. I liked it on the level I was scripting my Little Things video at the time, and I just had too many pieces of animation at that point. Every time I see someone meme with that movie or just post a clip, I'm reminded of what a fucking delight it is, and I don't know. I think I'm gonna say I hope it wins, with the caveat that I just know Marcel won't. You know what I mean?
I mean, I'm surprised you don't want Turning Red to win, since that was your movie of the year.
I forgot that was nominated. Fuck. And I almost just want DreamWorks to be rewarded for taking that big swing.
Yeah,
they really
I
should.
100% agree. I think visually it's probably the best out of the nominations, just because every like frame of it is so good. And it's nice to not have to have diversity of winners, so it's not always just Disney.
Every character in that movie is such a banger too. Fucking Big Jack, Goldilocks. Big Jack, endlessly quotable fucking character.
Took you so long, idiot.
I didn't have much growing up. Loving family. Stable life in a mansion supported by a bakery empire. Useless crap like that. Oh, man. Who do you guys got for Best Picture?
You can guess.
And I could see it happening, honestly. Like, in a post-Parasite world, I could see it winning. Just because I think they've embraced, like, the letterboxed choice, I almost feel like.
I think Everything Everywhere deserves most of its awards, especially, like, for Michelle Yeoh and Ke Huy Quan. I think they need to get their awards there.
Let's see, best... Do you think they're going to give Brendan Fraser Best Actor?
I think so.
I could see
that
it, yeah.
movie is so strange. I don't... I think if it's going to get any award, it should be that one, because Brendan is pretty great in it. That movie is an anomaly.
Why is Elvis up for Best Editing?
Elvis?
I mean, Bohemian Rhapsody was.
What is the obsession with these musical biopics being up for Best Editing even when they're
Elvis
terrible?
feels like a 2.5-hour like amusement park ride, like based on a more thorough Elvis movie. The best I can describe it.
Yeah, and bleep this up with the
favorite meal is when the day begins. Yeah, I'm all about that breakfast. It's my jam. I'm tossing eggs, bacon, and ham. In the mood for pancakes? I am.
You guys saw Wakanda Forever, right?
No.
Angela Bassett for Best Actress, is that a total, like... What's the tea on that? What's the sauce?
I mean, she's good in it, but I don't think it's a Best Actress nom. It's a very standard MCU performance.
I was gonna say, like, I haven't seen it. I've heard she's great in it. Like, but it almost strikes me a bit like we're gonna nominate the MCU. Has it ever been nominated?
Yeah, Black Panther was nominated for Best Picture.
Really?
Yeah,
that's weird to think about, man.
It drops on streaming in a couple days, so I guess I'll watch it then.
Oh no! An even weirder nom is Ana de Armas for Blonde?
That movie should be buried and forgotten.
Why, did she get nommed for Knives Out, but this?
The little fetus baby, the little talking baby, that should be up for Best Actor and Best Story and Best Everything.
And I just hope this is a normal Oscars where there isn't a weird like physical conflict that normies think is like super scandalous and won't stop talking about.
No doubt.
Or no, I feel like they're gonna like try and recreate something. Like it'll be a bit. Like they'll try and like make something happen. Judge Brendan Fraser with the camera until he hits someone. I don't know. Well, all these, you know what? This has all been just like clearing the field and like procrastinating for the thing that is a little harder to talk about, but I think we should get into it. Is the big piece of news this month is that Justin Roiland has been found guilty of domestic abuse and booted from all of, as ostensibly as far as I can tell, all of his creative collaborations. So that's been a shake-up.
Yep.
Been a shake-up there. First thing, front and center, I hope he rots, because fuck him for everything, being a monster. I guess, like, I'm so fucking thankful. I'm fucking thankful we never once touched on stuff like the Poloni Show Halloween special. Where I cut that last minute for time from like my Little Things video, and I'm like, oh, someone was looking out for me. But like on a more serious note, it bummed me out that he, nothing changes what he fucking did, but he propped up a lot of like smaller creators and platformed a lot of people. Like so many podcasters I follow got their start in like a Rick and Morty writer's room. Or a lot of like just like internet internet sketch writers, got like propped up by Poloni Show Halloween special and did like cool shit for it. And my first concern was that they would somehow be like implicated or blacklisted by association, and I'm sure there's some difficult things going on, but like I haven't noticed anything terribly shaking, like outside of Roiland's own victims, who I hope are, given compensation whatever way. It seems like this has been I don't want to say a positive development, but people are better off for it, and nobody's like fired or fucked over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rick and Morty will be recast. That'll be where are they going to find someone to do a Rick and Morty impression?
I don't know what they're gonna do. There's gonna be some like in-universe explanation for it, and it's gonna be like
There's gonna be like a meta episode where they're gonna be like, Morty, we got new voice actors, Morty.
No, I just pictured Jerry is going to be like, oh yeah, Grandpa Rick built a voice changer and it broke, like.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And frankly, I really like Rick and Morty, and I like Solar Opposites. I'm really hoping both those shows improve with him gone.
The word?
Specifically Rick and Morty. I know that I've been bagging on Dan Harmon a lot, but apparently he's been doing better.
Yeah.
So hopefully that goes somewhere good, and hopefully they just get the fucking balls to just make Summer 18, because that shit is making me uncomfortable every season.
Just a fucking Summer's birthday episode, and everyone's just like inexplicably relieved. Like,
that would be nice before she goes to another fucking planetary orgy for some reason.
Golly. From what I hear, Justin Roiland was at a point where he was just like Seth MacFarlaneing it and like not really involved outside of voice acting. So I think it'll be
yeah, I can see that.
It'll be what it'll be. I wish the best to the people that weren't complicit and just doing their jobs. And I hope Justin Roiland gets rickety wrecked, son. I don't know if that was tasteful. Yeah, it is what it is.
I think it was tasteful.
Well, I think that about covers our news, unless you guys have anything else to bring to the forefront.
Not that I can think of.
No, it's always dry at the beginning of the year. We don't have like a Nintendo Direct or anything to talk about. So, outside of like the Bethesda thing, which didn't really bring anything new outside of Hi-Fi
We're talking about Megan this month, for Christ's sake. So yeah. That shows us. I get a feel it's usually February Direct, right?
Yeah, usually either January or February.
And there was that
but
little reported musing that they're working on a Mario baseball.
Well, that's like the only one left, so I'm sure it's going to come out this year, and it's also probably going to be just as low quality as like Strikers.
Hope I don't end up buying this one, but I've said that before. Is there sports left they could do? We haven't. No. Mario.
Well, we got tennis, we got golf, we got
Is there a sport that like
Strikers.
hasn't been a Mario yet?
They they did. Remember they did the basketball one before, but they haven't done that.
Well, that was,
while.
and I wonder if there's rights issues with like Square Enix, because I think that was like a collaboration. Like you could play as a Moogle in that game, and a couple other like Final Fantasy things.
Mm-hmm. And they had like an original like princess in the Mario style,
something like that. Yeah, Mario Hoops. Yeah, let's bring that back and just let Square like back on the horn to like create some original fucking assets, for Christ's sake. Pauline in basketball shorts. Let me have it. Well, that's our show. Thank you for listening. Hope your year is wonderful. I'm the stingiest man in town, Tommy.
I am the person who has given Tommy multiple titles and nicknames, and I'm Will.
And I am Dav, also known as Funky Boy.
See you all next time. Have a wonderful time.